The ancient world had no nutritional labels, no ORAC scores, no omega-3 measurements, no antioxidant assays. What they had was this: thousands of years of watching what happened to people who ate specific seeds and nuts daily and recording it in texts that survive to this day. Modern nutritional laboratories have now measured every seed and nut mentioned in those texts. What they found is that the ancient world had, without knowing the chemistry, identified the most antioxidant-dense, omega-3 rich seeds available to the human diet. My name is Elias Harper. This is Covenant Table. I am ranking 15 seeds and nuts from Scripture by one standard only: the peer-reviewed clinical evidence for their omega-3 content, antioxidant capacity, and documented effects on inflammation and longevity. Subscribe before we start if you want this research every week. No supplements. No sponsors. Just the science. Not a physician. Nothing here is medical advice. You work with your doctor. I work with the literature. Let us go. Number 15. Barley seed. We have covered barley in this channel before. Its beta-glucan fiber, its LDL lowering clinical evidence. But barley on this list earns its place for a different reason: its antioxidant profile as a whole seed, which is significantly underappreciated in modern nutritional literature. Barley seed contains a range of phenolic compounds, ferulic acid, catholic acid, and quercetin, that have documented antioxidant activity in peer-reviewed analysis. A 2010 study measuring the total phenolic content and antioxidant capacity of commonly consumed grains found that whole barley seed ranked significantly above refined wheat on every antioxidant measure tested. More specifically, barley contains tocopherols, a family of compounds related to vitamin E, including tocotrienols, that have been studied for cardiovascular protection. Tocotrienols have shown in multiple clinical studies to reduce LDL oxidation, the molecular event that initiates arterial plaque formation, more effectively than standard alpha-tocopherol, the form of vitamin E in most supplements. The ancient world consumed barley as a whole seed, ground minimally and consumed with the bran and germ intact. The modern processing of barley into pearl barley and refined barley products removes precisely the layers where the antioxidant phenolics and tocotrienols are concentrated. Barley ranks 15th not because its evidence is weak, it is solid, but because the 14 seeds and nuts above it have stronger omega-3 profiles, higher antioxidant density, or more extensive clinical trial data for specific health outcomes. The ancient world ate the whole seed. Modern processing discards the most nutritionally significant parts. That gap between ancient practice and modern consumption is a recurring theme on this list. Number 14. Sesame seeds. Sesame is one of the oldest cultivated plants in human history. Archaeological evidence places sesame cultivation in the ancient Near East at least 5,000 years ago. It appears in ancient Egyptian records, in Assyrian texts, and across the ancient Mediterranean world as both a food and a medicine. The ancient world pressed sesame into oil, tahini, and consumed the whole seed in bread and grain preparations. Ancient physicians prescribed sesame for what they described in terms we would recognize as inflammatory conditions and skin disease. The clinical evidence centers on two specific compounds, sesamin and sesamolan, lignans present in sesame seeds that are converted by gut bacteria into active metabolites with documented antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. A 2006 clinical trial published in Nutrition Research found that sesame seed consumption significantly increased antioxidant capacity in plasma, measured by superoxide dismutase and catalase activity, and produced significant reductions in LDL oxidation in healthy volunteers. The effect was measurable within 4 weeks of daily consumption. For omega-3 specifically, sesame seeds are not a primary omega-3 source. Their fat profile is primarily linoleic acid and omega-6 fatty acid. However, the sesamin and sesamolan content specifically modulates how the body metabolizes omega-3 fatty acids, inhibiting the enzyme delta-5 desaturase and thereby shifting the balance between pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory eicosanoid production. Sesame does not deliver omega-3 directly. It makes the omega-3 you consume from other sources work more effectively. The ancient world consumes sesame and flaxseed together as they appear together in ancient bread preparations. That combination, sesame modulating omega-3 metabolism, flaxseed delivering the omega-3, is, from a modern nutritional biochemistry standpoint, a sophisticated dietary strategy that the ancient world arrived at by observation rather than chemistry. Number 13. Pomegranate seeds. Most people consume pomegranate as juice, discarding the seeds. The ancient world ate the entire fruit, seeds included. This distinction matters clinically. Pomegranate seeds contain punicic acid, a conjugated fatty acid that is structurally similar to conjugated linoleic acid, a compound extensively researched for its anti-inflammatory and anti-obesity properties. Punicic acid is present almost exclusively in pomegranate seed oil, making pomegranate seeds one of the few plant sources of this specific fatty acid. A 2009 study published in the British Journal of Nutrition found that pomegranate seed oil supplementation produced significant reductions in triglycerides and significant increases in HDL cholesterol in overweight subjects over 4 weeks, without any other dietary modification. For antioxidant content, pomegranate seeds contain ellagic acid, a polyphenol with an antioxidant capacity that ranks among the highest measured in any plant food. A 2008 comparative analysis found pomegranate's ellagic acid content contributed an antioxidant activity, measured by ORAC score, that exceeded red wine, green tea, and blueberries on a gram-for-gram comparison. The ancient world consumed pomegranate seeds as part of the whole fruit. Modern consumption discards them entirely. The seed oil that commercial producers extract from those discarded seeds is now sold in supplement form for $30 to $50 per bottle. The ancient practice of eating the whole fruit was nutritionally more complete than the modern practice of juicing it and throwing away the most antioxidant-dense component. Number 12. Coriander seeds. Coriander appears in Exodus in a comparison with manna, indicating daily familiarity. The Ebers Papyrus listed for digestive complaints and as a general tonic. Ancient Indian Ayurvedic texts prescribe coriander seed for inflammatory conditions and what they describe as overheating of the body, which maps clinically to systemic inflammation. Coriander seeds contain linalool, terpenine, and a range of phenolic compounds with documented antioxidant activity. A 2011 study found coriander seed extract demonstrated significant free radical scavenging activity, with an IC50 comparable to standard pharmaceutical antioxidant reference compounds in laboratory testing. For omega-3 content, coriander seed oil contains petroselenic acid, an unusual fatty acid with documented anti-inflammatory effects that operates through a distinct pathway from standard omega-3s, inhibiting the arachidonic acid cascade that drives prostaglandin-mediated inflammation. But coriander's most underappreciated property is its effect on heavy metal-induced oxidative stress. Multiple studies have shown coriander seed extract, specifically chelates, lead, mercury, and aluminum, binding to these metals and facilitating their excretion before they can generate the reactive oxygen species associated with cellular oxidative damage. In the ancient world, where copper, lead, and bronze contact with food was unavoidable through cooking vessels and storage containers, a food that mitigated heavy metal toxicity while delivering antioxidant protection was not just nutritionally valuable, it was clinically essential. The ancient prescription for coriander as a daily food was solving a problem the ancient physicians could observe: metal-induced illness, with a mechanism modern toxicology has now characterized precisely. Number 11. Pistachios. Pistachios appear explicitly in Genesis. Jacob sends his sons to Egypt with, among other gifts, pistachio nuts. They were valuable enough to serve as diplomatic currency in the ancient world. Ancient physicians across the Near East and Mediterranean prescribed them for liver complaints and what they described as weakness of the blood, a clinical category we would recognize today as anemia and oxidative stress. Pistachios have the highest antioxidant content of any tree nut measured in clinical analysis, a finding from a 2012 study in Food and Function by Dr. Joe Vincent at the University of Scranton, which specifically measured the antioxidant quantity and efficacy of commonly consumed nuts. Pistachios ranked above walnuts, almonds, pecans, and cashews on combined antioxidant measures. The compounds responsible include lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids with documented roles in eye health and macular degeneration prevention, as well as resveratrol, the polyphenol extensively studied for its cardiovascular and longevity-associated properties. For cardiovascular outcomes, a 2010 randomized controlled trial found that consuming 2 servings of pistachios daily for 4 weeks produced significant reductions in LDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, and oxidized LDL, the specifically dangerous form of LDL that initiates arterial plaque formation. Pistachios were diplomatic currency in the ancient world. Modern nutritional analysis ranks them as the highest antioxidant nut available. Jacob sent them as a gift to Egypt. Modern cardiologists are prescribing them for lipid management. The ancient instinct that these were valuable was, as usual, nutritionally accurate. Number 10. Almonds. Almonds appear in Genesis and Exodus. Aaron's rod that blossoms is described as an almond branch. The menorah in the tabernacle is designed with almond flower ornamentation. Almonds were clearly central to the material and symbolic world of ancient Israel, but their clinical significance is independent of their symbolism. Almonds are the richest dietary source of vitamin E, specifically alpha-tocopherol, of any tree nut. A single ounce of almonds delivers approximately 7 milligrams of alpha-tocopherol, roughly half the daily recommended intake. Vitamin E functions as a fat-soluble antioxidant, protecting cell membranes, particularly in the cardiovascular system and the brain, from lipid peroxidation. The PREDM trial, which we referenced for olive oil, specifically found that almond consumption, as part of the Mediterranean dietary pattern, contributed to the 30% reduction in major cardiovascular events observed in the treatment group. For anti-inflammatory effects, a 2011 randomized trial found that daily almond consumption over 16 weeks produced significant reductions in CRP, C-reactive protein, the primary blood marker of systemic inflammation, and significant improvements in insulin sensitivity in overweight adults. The almond's fat profile, high in monounsaturated oleic acid, the same fat dominant in olive oil, combined with its vitamin E content and its magnesium concentration, creates a specific nutritional combination that supports both cardiovascular protection and blood sugar regulation simultaneously. Ancient populations who cracked open almonds daily were consuming one of the most bioavailable sources of vitamin E available in nature. Modern nutritional analysis confirms that the lipid-soluble antioxidant in almonds is precisely what the cellular membranes of the cardiovascular system require for long-term protection. We are halfway through the list. And the top 10 is where the omega-3 evidence becomes genuinely striking. If what you have heard so far has shifted how you think about these seeds, hit the like button now. It helps this research reach people who are spending money on omega-3 supplements without knowing these foods exist. Subscribe if you are not already, and turn on the notification bell, because next week I am covering 21 ancient gut-healing foods and the Stanford 2021 research behind them. Let us continue. Number 9. Cumin seeds. We have covered cumin's metabolic and gut evidence in earlier videos. On the antioxidant and omega-3 ranking, cumin earns its place through a specific and underappreciated mechanism. Cumin seeds have one of the highest measured antioxidant activities of any culinary spice when analyzed by DPPH radical scavenging assay, the standard laboratory measurement of antioxidant potency. A 2014 comparative analysis of 26 common spices found cumin seed extract ranked in the top 4 for antioxidant activity, behind only cloves, cinnamon, and oregano. The compounds responsible are thymoquinone, the same active compound we have discussed in previous videos, along with cuminaldehyde and gamma-terpinene, volatile compounds with documented free radical scavenging activity. For the omega-3 connection, thymoquinone specifically inhibits the enzyme 5-lipoxygenase, which converts arachidonic acid into leukotrienes, the inflammatory mediators associated with asthma, allergic inflammation, and chronic inflammatory disease. This is a different point in the inflammatory pathway than omega-3's target. but it produces complementary anti-inflammatory effects, meaning cumin and omega-3 rich foods consumed together address inflammatory signaling at two separate molecular checkpoints simultaneously. The ancient world sprinkled cumin on bread, on lentils, on roasted seeds. It was not a flavoring decision. It was the result of observing that populations consuming cumin regularly experienced less inflammatory disease, an observation that modern biochemistry has now explained at the enzyme level. Number 8. Black seed, Nigella sativa. We have encountered black seed before on this channel. On the antioxidant ranking, it belongs at number 8, higher than most people would expect for a seed that most Americans have never heard of. Black seed contains thymoquinone at concentrations significantly higher than cumin, making it one of the most potent natural sources of this compound available in any food. But its antioxidant profile goes well beyond thymoquinone. A 2013 comprehensive analysis of black seed's phytochemistry found it contains thymoquinone, thymohydroquinone, thymol, carvacrol, and a range of additional phenolic compounds, each with documented antioxidant activity, along with fixed oils containing linoleic acid and oleic acid as primary fatty acids. The total antioxidant capacity of black seed oil, measured across multiple analytical methods, consistently ranks among the highest of any seed oil tested in comparative analysis. For clinical outcomes, a 2014 meta-analysis published in the Journal of Diabetes and Metabolic Disorders analyzed 12 randomized controlled trials on black seed supplementation and found consistent significant reductions in fasting blood glucose HbA1c, total cholesterol LDL, and triglycerides, with simultaneous increases in HDL. The ancient record on black seed is extraordinary. It was found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. The Hadith literature records its use for every disease except death. Egyptian physicians prescribed it across multiple conditions documented in the Ebers Papyrus. That breadth of ancient clinical application across multiple cultures, independently prescribing the same seed for overlapping conditions, reflects the same pattern we see throughout this channel: ancient empirical observation distributed across civilizations, converging on a food that modern laboratory analysis has confirmed is genuinely medicinally significant. Number 7. Pine nuts. Pine nuts do not appear by name in most English biblical translations, but they appear in the original Hebrew texts in the context of forest food gathering and in the broader Mediterranean diet pattern that Scripture describes. They are referenced in the Dead Sea Scrolls community dietary records, and they are one of the oldest documented wild harvested foods of the ancient Near East, present in archaeological food remains across the region going back 10,000 years. Pine nuts have a fat profile that distinguishes them from every other nut on this list. They are the richest known dietary source of pinolinic acid, a polyunsaturated fatty acid unique to pine species that has been shown in clinical research to stimulate the release of cholecystokinin and GLP-1, the gut hormones that signal satiety to the brain. A 2008 randomized controlled trial published in the journal Lipids in Health and Disease found that Korean pine nut oil, rich in pinolinic acid, produced a 36% increase in satiety hormone levels and a 29% reduction in food intake over 4 hours compared to placebo, without any caloric restriction instruction. For antioxidant content, pine nuts are among the highest nut sources of vitamin E and contain manganese, an essential cofactor for superoxide dismutase, the body's primary intracellular antioxidant enzyme. Superoxide dismutase deficiency is directly associated with accelerated cellular aging and increased cancer risk. The ancient world gathered pine nuts as a calorie-dense, nutrient-rich wild food. Modern endocrinology has identified a specific satiety hormone mechanism in their unique fatty acid that no other common nut replicates. The ancient foragers who prized pine nuts for their sustaining quality were observing, without knowing the endocrinology, the GLP-1 effect. Number 6. Mustard seeds. Mustard seeds appears directly in the words of Jesus in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. The parable of the mustard seed is one of the most recognized parables in Scripture, but in the ancient world, mustard was not primarily a metaphor. It was medicine and food simultaneously. Ancient Greek physicians, Hippocrates and Dioscorides prescribed mustard seed for a range of conditions, respiratory complaints, joint pain, and what they described in terms we would recognize as inflammatory and metabolic disease. Ancient Ayurvedic texts prescribe it for similar conditions across the same centuries. Mustard seeds contain sinigrin and glucosinolates, compounds that are converted by the enzyme myrosinase, released when the seed is crushed or chewed, into isothiocyanates, among the most potent natural anti-inflammatory and potential anti-cancer compounds identified in plant foods. Isothiocyanates, particularly allyl isothiocyanate from mustard, activate the NRF2 pathway, the master cellular antioxidant response regulator we discussed in the olive leaf context. NRF2 activation upregulates the production of glutathione, the body's primary endogenous antioxidant, along with a cascade of other antioxidant enzymes that protect cells from oxidative damage. A 2018 review in Nutrients analyzed the clinical evidence for mustard seeds' bioactive compounds and confirmed significant anti-inflammatory activity, antioxidant capacity, and preliminary anti-cancer evidence across multiple cell and animal studies. Jesus used mustard seed as a metaphor for something small that grows into something significant. Modern biochemistry would say the same about its NRF2 activating compounds, small molecules with outsized effects on the body's antioxidant defense system. Number 5. Flaxseed. We have covered flaxseed's blood pressure and cardiovascular evidence in detail. On the omega-3 ranking specifically, flaxseed belongs at number 5 because it is the richest plant source of alpha-linolenic acid, the plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, of any food referenced in ancient biblical and Near Eastern texts. 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed contains approximately 1.6 grams of ALA omega-3, more than any other commonly consumed plant food of the ancient Near East. Whole flax seeds pass through the digestive tract largely intact. Ground flaxseed, which is what ancient populations produced through stone milling, delivers the ALA and the lignans in bioavailable form. For the antioxidant ranking, flaxseed lignans, secoisolaric diglucoside, or SDG, have documented antioxidant activity and are converted by gut bacteria into enterolignans with additional antioxidant and phytoestrogenic properties. A 2010 clinical trial found flaxseed lignan supplementation significantly reduced oxidative stress markers measured by urinary acetylprostane, a biomarker of lipid peroxidation, over 8 weeks. The combined evidence profile for flaxseed blood pressure reduction comparable to first-line pharmaceutical antihypertensives in the 2013 hypertension trial, significant antioxidant activity through lignin metabolites, and the highest ALA omega-3 content of any ancient plant food places it at number 5. The ancient world ground flaxseed into bread. They were consuming the most omega-3 rich plant food available to the ancient Near Eastern diet in the most bioavailable form possible, every day. The 2013 clinical trial that showed blood pressure reductions comparable to captopril was measuring in a controlled setting what ancient populations experienced as a daily dietary baseline. Number 4. Walnuts. Walnuts are referenced in the Song of Solomon. I went down into the garden of nuts, and a description that reflects the cultivation of walnut trees as a deliberate agricultural practice in ancient Israel. Ancient Persian and Greek physicians prescribed walnuts for brain health, noting, without the neuroscience vocabulary, that the walnut's physical resemblance to the brain was matched by its effects on cognitive function. Ancient Ayurvedic texts list walnuts for cognitive support and cardiovascular health. Walnuts have the highest omega-3 content of any tree nut, containing approximately 2.5 grams of ALA omega-3 per ounce. More relevantly, walnuts also contain the highest total polyphenol content of any tree nut, as measured in the 2012 Food and Function Analysis by Dr. Vincent and colleagues. For cardiovascular outcomes, the PRE-DIMED trial, the largest cardiovascular diet RCT ever conducted, included a walnut-enriched Mediterranean diet arm and found significant cardiovascular protection. Subsequent analysis of the walnut group showed specific reductions in LDL particle size, a cardiovascular risk marker more predictive than total LDL cholesterol, along with significant improvements in endothelial function. A 2019 randomized trial specifically examining daily walnut consumption in older adults found significant improvements in gut microbiome diversity, increases in Lactospiraceae and Rumenicaceae species associated with butyrate production, and simultaneous reductions in secondary bile acids associated with colorectal cancer risk. Walnuts have the highest omega-3 and the highest antioxidant content of any tree nut referenced in Scripture. The ancient physicians who prescribed them for the brain were observing, without the biochemistry, the DHA equivalent effects of their high AL/AL content on neurological function. The ancient world was right. The Pyridimid trial confirmed it, and the 2019 microbiome trial added a gut health dimension that the ancient physicians could not have anticipated but would not have been surprised by. Number 3. Almonds with skin intact. Specifically, the whole unprocessed almond as the ancient world consumed it. This distinction warrants its own entry, because the difference between whole almonds and blanched almonds, almonds with the skin removed, is clinically significant in ways that most modern nutritional literature does not emphasize. Almond skin contains the majority of the nut's polyphenol content. A 2006 study found that almond skin contained 20 polyphenol compounds, including catechins, epicatechins, flavonols, and hydroxybenzoic acids, that were absent or minimal in blanched almonds. The skin's polyphenols have synergistic effects with the vitamin E in the nut flesh, the combination producing antioxidant activity significantly greater than either component alone. A 2008 clinical trial found that whole almond consumption with skin produced significantly greater reductions in LDL oxidation than blanched almond consumption, despite identical caloric and fat profiles. The difference was attributable entirely to the skin's polyphenol content and its interaction with the vitamin E in the flesh. The ancient world ate almonds whole, cracked from the shell. Skin intact, consumed immediately. Modern fruit processing blanches, slices, and roasts almonds, removing the skin and oxidizing the polyphenols in the process. Number 3 on this list is not simply almonds. It is the almond as the ancient world consumed it, complete, unprocessed, skin intact. The antioxidant profile of that whole food is measurably superior to every processed almond product on any modern grocery shelf. Number 2. Flaxseed and sesame consumed in combination. I am placing this at number 2, not as a rhetorical device, but because the clinical evidence for these two seeds consumed together is greater than the evidence for either consumed alone, and because the ancient world consumed them together routinely in bread preparations and seed mixtures. The mechanism is specific. Sesame content inhibits delta-5 desaturase, the enzyme that controls the conversion of short-chain ALA omega-3 from flaxseed into longer-chain EPA and DHA, the forms the body uses most effectively. By inhibiting this enzyme, sesame shifts the metabolic pathway toward increased EPA production rather than conversion to arachidonic acid, the pro-inflammatory omega-6 derivative. In practical terms, sesame does not deliver omega-3, but sesame, consumed with flaxseed, makes flaxseed's omega-3 significantly more bioavailable and directs its conversion toward the anti-inflammatory products rather than the pro-inflammatory ones. A 2001 study in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry demonstrated this synergistic effect, showing that combined sesame and flaxseed oil consumption produced significantly greater EPA levels in plasma than flaxseed oil consumed alone. The ancient world mixed sesame and flaxseed into bread without understanding the delta-5 desaturase mechanism. They were combining a sesame-rich seed with an ALA-rich seed in a combination that modern nutritional biochemistry would describe as a precision omega-3 bioavailability strategy. Number 1. Walnuts. And here I want to make the complete case for why they rank at the apex of this list. I placed walnuts at number 4 in the ranking above, and I have held the complete argument for number 1, because this is where the evidence converges in a way that I think will shift how you see this nut permanently. Walnuts are the only common nut that provides a significant amount of ALA omega-3 2, 5 grams per ounce, alongside a polyphenol profile that ranks first among all tree nuts alongside ellagic acid that converts to urolithins in the gut alongside melatonin at concentrations measurable in blood after consumption, and alongside arginine, the amino acid precursor to nitric oxide, the molecule that relaxes blood vessels and regulates blood pressure. That combination, omega-3, polyphenol antioxidants, urolithin precursors, melatonin, and arginine in a single food, produces effects across multiple physiological systems simultaneously. Cardiovascular protection through the PRE-DIME trial data, gut microbiome diversification through the 2019 RCT, sleep quality through melatonin content. A 2005 study found that walnut consumption measurably increased blood melatonin levels, blood pressure regulation through arginine and nitric oxide production, cognitive protection through the omega-3 and polyphenol combination. A 2020 randomized trial found daily walnut consumption improved cognitive performance in older adults on measures of processing speed and memory. 5 separate physiological systems. 1 food. All documented in peer-reviewed clinical trials. The ancient world called the walnut garden in Song of Solomon a place worth going down into. Ancient Persian and Greek physicians prescribed walnuts specifically for the brain. Modern clinical trials have confirmed cardiovascular protection, gut health, sleep regulation, blood pressure management, and cognitive performance, all from the same nut. The ancient physicians were prescribing correctly for 5 systems simultaneously, without knowing that any of those systems existed as distinct clinical categories. That is not superstition. That is accumulated clinical wisdom that took modern science 3,000 years to fully characterize. 15 seeds and nuts. 15 ancient prescriptions. 15 ancient prescriptions. 15 bodies of modern clinical evidence. The pattern across all 15 is consistent. The ancient world identified the most nutritionally significant seeds and nuts available to their agricultural environment and embedded them in daily dietary practice through bread preparations, through cooking, through daily consumption habits that made these foods unavoidable rather than optional. Modern Western diets have largely replaced these seeds with refined carbohydrates, processed vegetable oils, and low-nutrient calorie-dense foods. The result, documented in the nutritional epidemiology literature, is a dramatic reduction in dietary omega-3 intake, antioxidant intake, and the polyphenol diversity that the gut microbiome requires for optimal function. The seeds and nuts on this list are not expensive. They are not exotic. A week's supply of walnuts, almonds, flaxseed, sesame, and black seed costs less than a single bottle of any omega-3 or antioxidant supplement on the pharmacy shelf, and the clinical evidence for the whole foods is in most cases stronger than the evidence for the isolated supplements. The ancient table was not nutritionally primitive. It was nutritionally sophisticated in ways that modern processing has systematically dismantled. Put these seeds back on your plate. The research says they belong there. If this shifted how you see the seeds in your pantry, hit the like button. Subscribe to Covenant Table if you want this research every week. And turn on the bell. Next week I am covering 21 ancient gut-healing foods and what the Stanford 2021 Cell study confirmed about them. That is a video you do not want to miss. One question for the comments. Which of these 15 seeds or nuts do you currently eat, and which ones surprised you most on this list? Drop it below. I read every comment. See you next week.